kick back and just answer some simple questions. I'm really excited about this group of people. I'll let you do the introductions and in detail, but I think it's a great mix of telco, CPaaS provider, technology provider, GSMA, I don't know, there's a category on its own in a way. And I thank you very much, Ferry, for taking care of this one.
Thank you. Before I do the introduction, I want to make a confession to you. In 2022, I was very depressed. I wrote, and not just because of COVID. In 2019, I wrote McKinsey's report on 5G. I spoke with hundreds of industries, clients to say, how are we going to use 5G? And then 2022, COVID is over, 5G is rolled out, telcos have invested about $1 trillion in 5G, and crickets. Nothing of the excitement we predicted happened. There were no drones using this, there were no self-driving cars, there was no use case, basically, just a little bit faster internet. So it felt a bit like this 5G was another of those unsuccessful Gs, the uneven Gs, as some people say, they're always unsuccessful. So I was very excited when the GSMA launched Open Gateway Camara, when the 5G APIs came up. Because fundamentally, when we spoke with consumer companies, banks, manufacturers, a lot of people are interested in location, in better quality networks, in more security. So the capabilities that networks have are actually quite valuable. We just have no way to get it around. So 2023, I got a little bit happy again. And then GSMA launched Open Gateway. And again, for a year and a half, not a lot have happened. So I think Rob was very right that the Ericsson announcement last Friday was a really good moment. Because except for Ivan, he will talk about it with his Brazil initiative where everybody's looking at, there was very little to see on Open Gateway. So we as McKinsey put also a big statement out. We always say cynics don't build empires, so you need to believe in something. We actually do believe that these 5G capabilities are quite important, and therefore we put a bold report out where a lot of people in the room made fun of, which we basically said, if you get this executed right, there's a $100 billion opportunity here. And the $100 billion, is only 10 to 15 APIs. There's also a bit of connectivity, edge compute, and operator billing in. But we're big believers, so we're very excited to be here. Now, a couple of these gentlemen I know very well, so let's start with Ivan. He just introduced himself. I actually know him because he's an ex-colleague of mine, because we both worked for McKinsey. Henry, of course, is the GSMA Open Gateway lead. He is the Mr. Open Gateway. Is that your official title, or?
My official title is Head of Networks and look at generational changes in the GSMA. But yeah, I've been, the target is heavily on my back to see if we can make the industry drive towards exposing network capabilities, programmable networks, hopefully at the end of the day. It's been fabulous.
Jacob also known for a long time. He is the Head of Strategy and Innovation for KPN, but actually also Mr. Network and Mr. 5G in KPN, and one of the pioneers in the 5G space. I'm very happy on the panel. The only gentleman I don't know that well is from Radisys, Adnan. So basically, can you introduce yourself? Because I didn't get the buyer from you,
sure,
so I'm sure you're
Hi,
you can do a better job.
Adnan Saleem at Radisys, CTO Software and Cloud Solutions. Been involved in media processing, media-centric applications for quite a while, and now those real-time media applications are now evolving into CPaaS infrastructure, and of course the programmable network aspect of it.
Thank you for having me. Let's start with the man who took me out of my depression, which is Henry. So Henry, tell me a little bit, how did the Open Gateway thing come about in the GSMA, and how did you come up with this, and what was the idea of doing Open Gateway?
As you know, the GSMA is a membership organization, so we're led by our operators, and our operators were getting a little bit frustrated about the monetization of 5G, as you've previously mentioned. Deutsche Telekom were a significant lead to start off with, and they created the Global Telco API Alliance, do you remember that? Which is merged into what we see as Camara today. They initially came to the GSMA, we said, actually, to be honest, the Linux Foundation is perfect to actually drive an initiative like that, and that happened. Our chairman at the time, well, still is our chairman, I think, Jose Maria, from Telefonica, really has a passion to actually get behind this, because you can see the fact that we need to monetize the enterprise businesses. So back in Mobile World Congress 2023, we launched the GSMA Open Gateway Initiative. Now, we're not trying to compete at all. We're trying to be an umbrella that is providing the adoption across the industry. So we have great partners. Kamara has its role. TM Forum has its role in the fulfillment side of the APIs. And the GSMA will bring interoperability from a technical point of view. But don't forget the GSMA is also there to look at the commercial principles on how this initiative is going to get monetized. And also we look at the aspects around policy and regulation to actually ensure that there's a safe haven for the initiative to move forward. So far, just recently, we've actually have 55 group operators that have signed the MOU. That represents around about 262 mobile networks around the world, 67-68% of mobile connections that they cover. But we also we focused this year on channel partners, and we have 20 channel partners that have signed the GSMA MOU, which is unbelievable in the growth that we've actually seen. And that's why we're so interested in CPaaS actually driving forward, because that, we feel, is where the real engagement is with developers. And developers and enterprises are the people that are going to monetize what we're doing. And we've got to have that conversation up there with the developers and enterprises. What do they need, and how does that get delivered to them in the respects? So we have a significant momentum still going forward. I can give you more stats in the breaks. Just give me a chat. I'll tell you exactly where we are at in the industry. But it's just great to see that the industry is stepping forward and moving forward together.
They have a great website. If you ever want to see the latest status, you can actually go on the website of GSMA to see who launched what API. So that's a great resource.
And who's certified as well.
And who's certified.
Yeah.
Then moving to Ivan, because like I said, GSMA came with a report that the Brazil implementation of Open Gateway and SIM swap is now potentially trailing to $10 million a year. That's the only one who has real numbers. So to tell me a little bit of your experience, you were one of the first to launch a marketplace with 3 operators in a large market and getting some commercial traction. So tell me a bit, how did it go, and what are your lessons learned?
Yeah, so I think there were 2 sort of things. So number one was really critical. That was really critical for us, is really to launch all the operators in sync, because none of the clients wanted to buy a feature that'll be available to 30% of subscribers. I mean, companies are like, okay, so what am I going to manage silent mobile verification in one way for 1/3 and then in another way for the 2/3? I want to offer the service to the full population. So getting them together was not easy. It took us some time really to build everything and launch. Once we launched, actually, and that's why the numbers are good, it's really like joint go-to-market. So on the positive side, it's, we're all together working to get customers through referrals and implementations. We're going ahead then in where we are experts, APIs, but telcos are really helping. So that's sort of a positive thing. And then more and more companies are interested because they see positive ROI. I mean, there's no spillover on fraud. There's no spillover on alternative channels. The conversions are much better. The challenge is still a little bit the pricing and the model, because we're global. And for example, one big group of our clients are massive Chinese companies that are also big in Brazil. Many of them were actually interested, but then they were like very skeptical when they realized, oh, the price is the same as SMS. And I think those models we need to do a little bit better, because maybe even if it's 20% lower, it'll give incentive, but telcos will not lose, because then the spillover to other channels, to gray routes and so forth will not happen. Everything will go through this. So I think we need to work out that model. And also the other thing I would recommend to the whole industry, we need to learn from big tech. And with this I will finish. If you look at the RCS launch we're doing with US and Google, if you look at the Apple launches for their Apple Messages of Business, they always find big brands that everybody look at, and they do a limited launch with like a limited number of brands, but massive marketing splash. I think we haven't done it like that in Brazil. Maybe in hindsight we should have. So I think going forward, my recommendation to all is like, once we find something that's really exciting and works, let's not rush too much for immediate adoption, but more create the first wave of like really big guys using it, and then create that snowball effect. I think those are kind of, just to share some learnings that were also, there were positives, but there are some learnings where we can kind of all improve, including us.
Thank you for that. So moving on, because SIM swap, of course, is a relatively, not so futuristic use case, a use case we all can grab. Now, Jacob, you've been a pioneer in the space. You've set up field labs with KPN. So if you take your learnings from working with industry partners, what do you see on the horizon? What type of APIs, what type of capabilities are these B2B companies excited about?
Let me first explain these field labs that we did for 5G. I find it very, very important not to sell the technology, because nobody will understand what 5G really is, etc. Until you have a plot, a space where you can demonstrate it and where you bring the full industry together. And I think that could be an answer to your marketing splash, Ivan. It's not only that marketing, but also demonstrate what the real value is, etc., to potential customers, and then bring all the people together. Now, that's what we try to do with 5G. And if you then take a look in, okay, what could be a next step in that, making these network resources from the mobile network available for everyone in an easy way, etc., that opens up a lot of business opportunities. And I think quality on demand, and that's also what I presented in Mobile World Congress this year, is one of the most important and striking aspects. You could say it's slicing, but then slicing in such a way that everybody can, in a fully digitized way, in an automated way, can make that access to these specific constraints. And there are so many industries that need that quality, whether it's the guaranteed bandwidth, or that's the non-fraudulent use, that you're certain about what kind of user it is, that he tells he is, etc. Quality will always pay, and that's also the bread and butter of the telco. So it comes close to heart.
Which is the one you're most excited about, where you saw in the field lab, you said, wow, that whatever is small or big?
Can I answer two?
Yeah,
Because,
of course. Yeah.
I think.
Well, can you answer two, or just look at the audience? Can you do two?
I think.
Yay! You can do two.
Okay, good. I think banks will definitely benefit very, very much from fighting that fraud by using, is the user really the user that he is, etc. And that's, I think, what also Brazil shows. On the other hand, manufacturing and automating manufacturing, etc., is also an industry that I'm expecting that will benefit very, very much from that automation. Maybe it's not strange, because I'm also chairing the GSMA group on manufacturing and digital industries.
So if you look at Radisys, your portfolio, so you see, of course, the new innovation coming. What do you see from a technology point of view? What's coming ahead, and are the telcos ready for it?
Right. So I think the way we're looking at it is that the network APIs, obviously it's great to see that is going to evolve over the next several years, more APIs, more operator interoperability, deployment across many operators. But then the view that we're looking at is that the APIs themselves is not an application, it's not a solution. So I think the focus really needs to be on the solution itself. What is the business value of the solution? APIs, network APIs, is a way to fulfill that solution, to bring that solution to life. So typically when we look at certain industries in the past have matured, come to a point of maturity at some point in time. And we've all talked about AI for God knows how long. We've talked about computer vision, machine vision, analytics for quite a while. There seems to be now all of these areas, 5G, computer vision, AI, conversational analytics, generative AI, and then network APIs. All of them seem to coming to a point where they're maturing more or less around the same time. So that brings the opportunity to create solutions and applications that as you mentioned, quality and demand, that's great, but when is quality and demand really needed? So you might have a lot of cameras where you might need to do computer vision analytics on those feeds, because those are some mission critical applications. That will be an example of an application. You have a lot of AI and generative AI use cases where you'll need the solution to require some conversational intelligence. How will that conversational intelligence come from? Maybe you need location, maybe you need device status, but there's a component of AI and a component of computer vision, machine vision, a component of the 5G, the underlying infrastructure as well. And then, so it's a combination of these things where these unique applications and solutions can come to market. I think those will be the drivers, the real value, and the driving of the API consumption will be led by those.
And do you believe the industry is ready for this application, bringing this all together? What is needed to get there?
Right, so I think that's why CPaaS is a central key component to that, because CPaaS is a place, in a general sense, is a place where rapid application development can occur. CPaaS infrastructure will provide application developers, it is already providing application developers and operators the ability to pull complex pieces, whether it's network APIs or the other areas that I mentioned in terms of AI and computer vision, and easily through APIs, do rapid development, innovation, and deployment. I think that's why seeding these things in innovation labs around the world now, as it started to happen, is great to see. But I think we need to look at it more from a business solution perspective and leverage the network APIs when that provides a more of a unique use case to be different than what's been done in the past.
Clear, very interesting. It's interesting, so Henry, you talked about the importance of more channel partners. Now we have, of course, here a CPaaS provider and a telco. So just want to ask you both a little bit of the same question to say, how do you look at the landscape? Because we now have CPaaS players, we got hyperscalers, we got telcos going direct. So how will the value chain look like? So let me start with Ivan. How do you see the value chain develop for this type of solutions?
Yeah, I think I strongly agree with what was said before. I think we're working extremely tight with telcos, and many also in this room, in joint go-to-markets and like B2B partnerships. So I think, we have built platform from 2006, and we started even earlier, and it's really powerful, and I mean, it's kind of doesn't make sense for telcos to build the same platform, but actually we're happy to white label and give it, so they become a channel for us, we become a channel for telcos. And then, as I said also earlier in my speech, many of telcos are like system integrators, work with businesses directly. So that kind of joint go-to-market approach, where we have a channel, where we have a technology, and we have expertise in APIs and partners, it's really working well, and we are seeing this year exponential growth. Both, actually, interestingly, in direct approach to companies, but also we have like partnership with Vodafone in Italy and so forth, where our products are on their self-service portal. So it's really kind of consuming through self-service, because we added multiple channels to them. They can offer WhatsApp now and everything, and it's really growing like strong. So that's one part. And I just, one more sentence to leave space for others. I think when it comes to hyperscaler, of course, the situation is a little bit different. And nothing, I mean, against or with some of them, we're working closely, the ones like Google that are more oriented to telcos. Their interest is really twofold: support the adoption of channels, and that we use their infrastructure or their AI, let's say Gemini, in building these solutions. So they're striving the ecosystems. The others are trying more to enter the space, but even for some of them, whenever it goes carrier grades, they try to build, I'm talking about some cloud providers that have their own communication services. They try to build this relationship with telcos, and they realize it's not easy and it's not something that they want to deal with. So then actually what happens is you just have one more layer. It's kind of a distribution channel, because we're still white labeling, let's say, SMS to some of them. So when you buy from a certain cloud provider, you actually are buying from us and consequently from telcos. So I think that's sort of an equilibrium that could also, in a way, happen here. So the bigger the complexity is, they will need more of this ecosystem. When it's very easy, like WhatsApp, or if these APIs become just like, you can connect and no complexity, then with hyperscaler situation might be different. But I still think there will be place for all of us, because companies will also want somebody to come with expertise and help them build custom application and things like that.
Jacob, we just called you difficult, so tell me, how do you think about hyperscaler, CPaaS provider, direct go-to-market, and otherwise, and more solutions even?
Yeah, and I'd like to start with that point, because I fully agree with your point. It's not selling the technology and then thinking about the distribution channel. It's really about thinking about what's the real customer problem that we're facing with, and how can we build that particular solution, and who do we need in order to do that. And it could be maybe via our own marketplace that we build for small and medium enterprises. But it could also be somebody else's marketplace, or using our own system integration capabilities, or the hyperscalers, or the biggest system integrators there are. I really don't care what kind of channel it is. It's really about how are people making use of our network, the capabilities, the functionalities in our network, and they should always be related to what's the problem that we try to solve, because then we are generating value also for that particular customer. And then we can also think about how to grow our revenue with the value that we create in that full chain. And which party do we need? It depends on also the choices of the specific end user that he makes.
Thank you. Just moving on a little bit around, the future of network APIs. I'm a failed entrepreneur, so I set up my own SMS business in 2000 to build a social network based on SMS. That was a complete disaster because the telcos basically asked for 70 to 80% of all the revenue I would make on that social network. So it took from SMS coming big, I think around 2000, till it starts scaling to significant revenue, at least 10, 15 years, to really saw the lift off of CPaaS. So Henry, why can we do it in 5 years and now it took 15 years for SMS? So why are you optimistic we do it in 5 years?
I think, and just to think about this, there is so much untapped potential there that we actually see that the information that operators have about the connectivity or the context of the end users. We've always struggled from a telco industry about being able to monetize this, and I think this is the first sort of insights that we can actually see that there is, there's almost a desperation out there to find the new value stream that operators and the CPaaS industry can actually come forward with. I think that, and we do need to change the conversation. Jacob brought it up a little bit more. We need to be thinking about delivering to what the end user, what the demand actually is, because they have a lot of pain points out there. It's taken 6 years to get the fintech industry to actually understand about anti-fraud. I don't think we can last another 6 years. The car manufacturing industry are suffering a little bit on telemetry. There's a lot of information that they want to get off. If we've got this vision of autonomous vehicles, then we're going to have to get these solutions right. If you look into the social media, there's a lot of trust and safety aspects that can be solved. There are billions of dollars being spent by the social media companies at the moment to try and get a trust and safety ecosystem going. I think operators and channel partners have that ability to be able to listen to them, understand their requirements, and it has to be done pretty quickly to actually play a role, because they are also looking at other technologies that are emerging to actually solve the problems. KYC, know your customer, actually understand your customer. Telcos actually have the majority of this information. Might not be highly accurate at this point in time, but if you start monetizing it, by God, it will get accurate, in the KYC side. So we need to flip the debate a little bit, have an outside-in approach, really think about what the industry segments actually need, have them on stage telling us what they want. In fact, have them on stage committing that they're actually going to actually want to actually use once it's available. We're still in that mindset of we will build it and they will come. Let's flip that debate with everyone out there. And that has to happen quickly. Otherwise, there's going to be other technologies that solve that problem.
And Jacob, of course, you are in the telco. So are telcos having a different mindset at this now? Because historically, the track record on innovation hasn't been great for the industry. So how you look at this now, and how do we make sure we learn from the past?
Yeah. Let me add a little bit to what Henry also said, because Henry said so rightfully, we have to realize that we play a role, not the role. And I think in some cases, the telco always thought we have to solve everything all by ourselves. And I think that's the biggest transformation that we have to go through as telco, that we realize we are a very big chunk of that ecosystem. We build the networks, we bring that reliability in, the trustworthiness, etc. But we need other people as well, other parties as well, in order to make it really happen. That showed these 5G field labs as well. It wasn't the telco alone. It wasn't the system integrator alone. It wasn't the application provider alone. They all played a role in it. And if we realize that, then I think we can bring a lot of innovation to society. We can bring the trust back also to where people in the social media industry are lacking that. We play a role in that. And if we realize that, we can play an important role. And we generate the value. And at the moment that we generate value, there is more than enough money for everyone in it.
Ivan, do you see it in practice? Because these two gentlemen said now it's different. Is it going to be different this time? Are you see them behave differently, the telcos?
A little bit, yes. A little bit. Because with coming together, standardization and talking, yes, I mean, I'm not talking about KPN, but like I'm talking more of a coalition, but still, you know, I don't want to describe the process of JV, but it took like years of like talking with different vendors and etc. So I think that kind of slowness in terms of really kind of executing and then having this mindset, oh, we can't do it because of interpreting regulation in different ways, that will slow down things. I think to the point that was said here, I 100% agree. We need to be very agile, build solutions, use cases that businesses, and then show the ROI. And that we won't do if we are kind of having big consortiums, 50 people, everybody has to align. You know, this thing where they said the camel is a cow that was built by a committee. So I think we just need to like really find sort of this kind of agility to innovate and really solve the problems and show the return on investment. And that is not yet happening at the scale and speed that I would like to. But I mean, maybe the Brazil is a good example. Why don't we find certain locations and distribute where we can move fast to show the value and then bring it to everyone to scale what we build? I mean, that could be also a different approach.
Just want to add to the leadership you showed in Brazil. I've copied that blueprint. It's almost out in 8 markets. Well, it is out in 8 markets. We're focusing on another 24 markets, you know, hopefully by Barcelona to actually get them. Certainly I'm on track for around about 16 to 17 markets out there.
Brilliant.
And that is the platforms that you guys are seeking.
It's
with the
brilliant.
interoperability.
That's maybe the answer. We find, why not Netherlands, we innovate some, why not, you know, smaller countries, we build it and then we roll out.
When you look at applications, where do you see the next wave of application hitting? Because I think that's a good point. This one also transition a bit to QOD, which I think a lot of people, quality on demand, where people are looking at. So in your mind, where do you see the next wave of application hitting?
I think, yeah, so the next wave of applications that we're looking at are very heavily leveraging all the advancements that are coming in AI technology. And of course, AI is a very, very, very broad range, but when I'm mentioning AI, more specifically around conversational intelligence, generative AI in real-time communications. So it's changing a lot of industries, all the way from contact centers to healthcare providers to insurance providers, where and even small to large enterprises, where that level of conversational intelligence can be rapidly developed and deployed, leveraging the advancements that are happening in generative AI when it's applicable to communications applications. So similarly, around the sort of the computer vision use cases as well, there's a lot of industry verticals. So imagine like a worker safety platform, a large industrial warehouse where a certain number of cameras will automatically then can detect, because the advancements in computer vision are really at that point now where it can be those complex applications that used to be complex a few years ago are now really dead simple, just dragging, dropping API calls to detect whether somebody's wearing a helmet, whether they're wearing protective wear. If there's a person in an area that is geofenced and not allowed to be in an area, an alert needs to be generated, somebody needs to be notified. If there's a crowd control situation, there's more than 12 people in an area, alert somebody. But so there's numerous industry verticals that leverage that can leverage and are starting to, because of the advancements in computer vision, generative AI, and then of course underlying is the CPaaS infrastructure and the network APIs that deliver it.
Very interesting. And you mentioned something interesting, which I think I'm going to put a pin in it for later, which is the fact that some of these APIs also need to work in private networks, because of course these safety features in factories, of course, are not just the public CPaaS network, but also private networks.
A lot of private 5G deployments, correct.
And how that works. I think that's not for this session, but it's a very one for the afternoon to really think about, because the private 5G APIs are a very interesting point. If you look at some of these use cases, of course, they need quality on demand. And while Jacob looks significantly better than I, he's actually even older than I am. So QOD has been a dream of the industry, quality on demand, for the last 20 years. Again, a little bit to your point, why is it different this time? Why will we get the quality of demand to work this time? You have a bit of a 20, 30-year industry. So what at this point will make quality on demand happen? Because it is important in some of these applications. So what is your vision on quality on demand?
I think that a lot of the industry, think back about that manufacturing. What I see happening is that a bit of the manufacturing is brought back from China back to Europe. But the only way to do that is to automate all these different processes. Do we have enough people to do that? No, we don't. So automation is key to that. Then quality control by, for instance, computer vision is one of the things that we definitely need in order to do that. But if you really want to rely on these automated processes, you need to have the high quality networks available to do that. So I think there is a big need. Coming back to what's the problem? The problem is bringing the industry back, automating manufacturing, but if you want to automate manufacturing, you also need to keep track of the quality that's delivered. You can't do it by people alone, so you need applications for that. Applications then need to be connected to the central infrastructure by high-quality networks. That's the only way it's going to happen. And that's, I think, different than all the years before. If we marketed it right, if we think about, okay, what's the business model behind it, that we don't, as a telco, say it's only about connectivity and we put every quality item into that connectivity. If it's you as a consumer or these gentlemen as a business, they get the same. Yeah, then it's not going to work. So we also need to think about that business model which is behind it. And I think that insight is coming. So that's the reason why I'm a strong believer that this will be the good area for the telcos to step in.
So you're basically saying there's more, the demand is better, so and by being close to the demand, we get there. I think, can I tease you a little bit? We're old colleagues, so if you look at quality on demand, which is a way more complicated API, it has network implication, it has needs reservation. What is all of CPaaS player, which are traditional, not really over the top, but close to over the top in doing that, so suddenly you have to go into the network. So if you look at QOD as a next set of APIs, how do you see the role of the CPaaS industry there? Just to be a bit provocative.
Well, I mean, no, it's good. Actually, we're working already on it with a partner. We won't get, of course, into network. It will be provided by KPM or by Nokia. But actually, what's important is we are building these conversational experiences. So I just want to be very concrete on the example. I can give you thousands. But let's say you're in a stadium and you want to order your food through RCS, or you want to download your ticket with a QR code. Like if you go to Chicago, let's say on NFL, like good luck downloading a ticket with Bears when there is a jam stadium. So at that point, when the experience is critical, we can activate the API through QOD and give priority to that experience so you can get your ticket and so forth. So in that sense, as everybody said before, we'll be packaging this as parts of engagement solutions and then giving that to our customers that we already work, and for them will be just a little extension of what they already do with us and so forth. So our role is more kind of to go deep already where we have relationships and help them think of the applications in context of engagement or experience and so forth. And I gave you one example, I could give you numerous others. But that's
this is more best effort QODs. It's not an SLA, because basically it's a ticket download. So how do you think about, you have this QOD, of course, which is best effort. I get a little bit higher priority versus, no, it's a guarantee. You actually will get your computer.
I like what you ask, because that's a part of the ecosystem discussion, right? If it's like an emergency case, we want guaranteed. If it's like more, okay, I need to order hamburger, okay, best effort, if you see what I mean.
Yep.
So in that sense, we will need to kind of have some compliance framework and how, I mean, it's beyond Infobip, of course. It's with the partners. How do we allocate priority on the network? But of course, there'll be engagement cases which are lighter, where we will do best effort. And the guaranteed ones, there are use cases where we all think it's ethical to do that, and we will do it. And then probably there'll be two different flavors of the product, and probably different compliance or application framework for the use cases and so forth. But we will actually build a catalog of use cases that work on one versus the other, and people can choose.
Henry, I see you dying to say something, so please.
Yeah, I think the beauty of programmable networks, and we all know radio is not not a reliable link at the end of the day. I think where we're moving to is telcos, would provision a service, and you kind of consider it's always there, which has been one of the failings all the time. What we're doing here on programmable networks is we're giving so much more context about the situation someone's in, the location they're in. Can a QSIF bearer be provided? Sorry, that might be getting a bit techie, but can quality on demand actually be provided? Or should it be scheduled at some time in the future? And have that conversation with the end user or even the provider, the merchant of the service, to say, here are the parameters that you're working with of the network. You need to decide when's the best time to be able to deliver that service level agreement that you have with the customer. Getting to a guaranteed service, we know, is one of the most impossible things to do, and the lawyers come all over it when you're actually trying to create those products. What we're trying to do is taking the next step there so there's enough information so the correct decision can be done, the customer experience is correct. It's about all that information you can get at that point in time.
We're closely getting to the end, so I just want to make sure that I get your vision for the future. So maybe 1 minute each to say, hey, if you look, where will we be if Rob is inviting us in 2028? Let's take 3 years. Where do you hope we stand? So what is your vision? Maybe starting there, and then we'll move one by one. Take a minute. So what's
Okay, I'll be short. I think really a lot has been said about solutions. I really see us as enabler of the next wave of digital transformation. Simply as that, we'll bring network APIs, channels, and different other technologies, and enable businesses to use messaging like they use in China today in order to generate first-party data, to transform their marketing, to transform their sales, and so forth. If we achieve that together with these ecosystem partners and system integrators, I think we achieved the big thing. And we will just give them all the tools and prepackaged solutions so they can just deploy. That's kind of my vision where we are building things. And it will go in waves. We need to spread adoption of rich channels. We need to spread adoption of simple APIs, and then start, once it's in, building solutions and showing them how much more superior ROI we provide.
Wow, that is a question, isn't it? I think from my point of view, in 5, 10, 20 years' time, I want to see an industry that is actually driven by vertical enterprise use cases, what their needs are, not what the telco thinks the needs are. They were really driving that network. I think telcos have the opportunity to be able to move forward and get virtualized, but use the service-based architectures that are there. And they'll see, it's painful at the beginning. I mean, it sounds very naive from me. It's very painful to get to that position, but I think there's going to be a better ROI on the other side for operators and channel partners once we get through that. But we've got to deliver it to the need.
You were talking about 3 years, not 10 years, Henry.
3 years. Yeah, we went through 3
Henry's
years.
always been a visionary, so we give him
that's
7
right.
years more.
So let me tell you 3 points which I see in 3 years' time. We have a massively perfect infrastructure here in the Netherlands with fiber rolled out to every household, every company. Standalone 5G networks with all the capabilities which are in there. I'm expecting that we make that transformation to solutions, applications, etc., with a lot of the channel partners, so that we can fulfill the demand of Henry of these vertical enterprises that have different requirements, but with different means we can fill that in. And with that, we have also shown that we create value for everyone, so that we can move away, and that's maybe a wish from my side, from cost-based pricing type business models to more value-based pricing business models, which generates also the money to make the big investments in that even 6G in the future and what comes next.
Yeah, thanks. So I think I agree with all the points I think mentioned here. One, I think, key criteria for success of this industry, programmable networks in particular, plus some of the other CPaaS things we talked about, is the speed of innovation. It cannot be that in the past that you have minimum 2 year development deploy cycles at a service provider. That 2 year cycle's got to get down to 1 or 2 quarters, and maybe even better 1 to 2 months. That has to be there. If there isn't that speed of innovation, then things really more or less the way that they were before. It doesn't matter how great these APIs are and what industry solutions are. The speed of innovation needs to be there, and the idea that you'll come with a killer app. There's no such thing as a killer app. Do not even look for a killer app. Build many, many applications, and that rapid development, rapid deployment is where it's going to find the killer app. When people go look for the killer app, what it will do is kill the business. Someone will find the killer app. So I think CPaaS industry in a whole, where all these areas are advancing and maturing to a certain point, the rapid development, testing, design, deploy, and monetize these things, that cycle's got to turn. So take the there's lots of simple cases that can be deployed and provide monetization values for those, start those, kick them off, and keep the ball rolling that way.
This is actually a first that the panelists all got a minute and they use less. So that gives me more time to close out. So I started with my depression of not being able to deliver the 5G value we all see. And then my vision for 3 years is that we actually do see now a lot of enterprises, developers using those capabilities in a very seamless way. And I think the announcement, I think Rob talked about, Ericsson did, the announcement of Bridge Alliance, the announcement what you're doing in Brazil, showing that telco is actually willing together. And if I see this conversation of the whole ecosystem come together, I'm actually hopeful that when I come back in 2028, I can be here not depressed, but very optimistic, and we finally see those billions. And all those people that made fun of me of the 100 billion will basically see those in the pocket of this gentleman here and be very happy. So thank you for the panel. Thank you, guests. And on to the next speaker, I guess.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent.
Thanks.
Sound? Thank you. Sound. Thank you, panel. That was great. I'm old enough to remember